What up,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen? Here with another awesome interview, Mr. Micah Nelson, who has a really incredible discography of not only recently joining Crazy Horse and his work with the Promise of the Real, but also Particle Kid and solo material, which is also incredible and I think slept on, honestly. So very honored to be here with the man himself. Welcome.
Hey Jay, it's Jay, right?
Yeah, I got it right, man.
I like how you spell your name. I wasn't sure if it was Jai or Jay, but I like it.
It's always a gamble for people, but like I said, it's a good conversation starter.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh yeah, thank you to the whole team over there. Always, they're really easy to work with. Very responsive. That was a real easy interview, planning process. So I really appreciate that. How you doing,
Cool.
man?
I'm good. All vitals are active and functioning.
Nice, nice.
Um, yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm at home, which is rare. So I'm just working on the house, trying to do what
Some
I can here
projects.
before I get back out on tour again.
Nice.
It's a bummer that the Crazy Horse tour got cut short, but it also I kind of needed. There's a lot of stuff I needed to get done at home, so I'm just sort of making the most of that
Yeah,
while I can.
nice. Um, I heard that Mr. Nelson got kind of sick at the beginning of the tour or whatever, and then with the Crazy Horse dilemma. So I just want you to know that the whole community and everything, we're all we're rooting for everyone and hoping for the I guess fast recovery. Whoever is sick, I don't want to really get into that because it's not our place to dig into that. But just letting whoever's watching, maybe Neil's watching this, whoever's Crazy Horse that they're out there. Um, we're pushing our strength to you guys, okay? And
Thanks, man. Thanks
the,
everybody.
the first question that I guess was most requested was, what music did you listen to growing up? What albums were really, on repeat?
Um, Man, that's a that's a good question. It's just a deep one because, like, when I was like a little kid, we'd pretty much exclusively listen to the oldies station, Motown stacks and all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
like the top of the pops from like the 50s and 60s. And then like as you got older, the oldies kind of became the 60s and 70s, and then eventually the oldies were the 70s and 80s, and then now they're like the 90s are the oldies. But yeah, that stuff was always happening in the car. And like I grew up in the 90s. My mom would always be playing like oldies, and then like she had this big Sting phase, which a lot of 90s moms had,
Yeah.
a lot of Sting. But she was always really into like the funky soul R&B music of the 60s, and because that's what she grew up with. And my Uncle Joe, her older brother, was the cool older brother who brought home the cool weird new records, and so turned her onto the Doors and Neil Young and the Beatles and all that stuff. So we had all that stuff growing up, and then I remember like when I was really young, I had this phase where I was really into like black R&B soul divas, like I was really into Janet Jackson and like
Oh yeah.
En Vogue and Salt and Pepper, TLC and all that.
Yeah.
Like probably my first like um sort of confusing crushes were like those types of public figures. And then also probably Lola Bunny from Space Jam, who's
Oh
not a
yeah,
real
yeah, yeah.
person,
No,
but
that's
definitely had
understandable
a
though.
crush on Lola. And then like my brother and I also got in this phase where we were obsessed with big band music, like from the 30s and 40s. We really loved Duke Ellington and Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman, Cab Calloway, and all that stuff. And probably around middle school, I was listening to a lot of punk rock and Um, High school, I really got into psychedelic rock music, and then I also started discovering like, with the internet and like indie music coming out, like the new era of indie music coming out.
Mhm.
And it was like of my generation because for a long time I just listened to old music because I hated music that was on the radio. Or I would listen to like I really liked film scores,
Oh yeah,
Danny Elfman and James Newton Howard, and
the
like
Kings.
yeah, I would be waiting for the school bus listening to that, and everyone else would be like listening to Shaggy or whatever, and I'm just like, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
the Shaggy and Sting correspondence too.
yeah, they made a pretty fun record. I don't know if
Their
many
Tiny
people heard
Desk
it.
was like incredible.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
they
gotta
had they
check
have
that out.
like an actually bomb Tiny Desk, and they like alternate
All right,
songs. It's too good.
that's
And
a great collab. I love that.
speaking of like the talking about like jazz and big band, have you dove into Mingus?
Oh hell yeah.
I love me some Mingus, man.
I love Mingus. I love Monk, Coltrane, Miles, Herbie, all that stuff.
It's so good.
Have you
When
heard
I
the Mingus record that Joni Mitchell and Mingus collabed on?
no, that sounds like insane.
It's insane. It's insane.
I'll definitely look that up, man.
There's actually this Flying Lotus track that I'm pretty sure samples that record. There's this like wah, wah, wah sound. I'm like, that I know that sound. That's from the Mingus Joni record.
It's like the best
Um,
feeling ever when you like know a sample in a song. You actually know the source material.
right.
Feel
Yeah,
like a
you feel
king.
extra cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And speaking of psych music, have you heard they're Australian. Have you heard the band Psychedelic Porn Crumpets? Insane name, but they're so good.
I've seen their name. I don't know if I've actually heard their songs,
You
but I'll
got
check them
to.
out. It's a
They're
great name.
really good. And when I was on the bus, because I'm on break right now, but on the bus it's so loud and my earbuds aren't that loud. So I would constantly be listening to either psych or shoegaze. Like My Bloody Valentine, because it's just so loud, it's so noisy that it kind of like
Oh yeah.
disrupts everyone else. I can focus directly on Subway Surfers. So
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that. Um when I first met Tony Peluso. He's the drummer of Insects versus Robots, and he was the drummer in Particle Kid for a long time. Good friend of mine, but he came from like Cape Cod, East Coast hardcore scene, and he turned me onto these bands like an Albatross and Combat Wounded Veteran, and these like really hardcore noise thrash scream kind of just intensity bands, and we would listen to these bands on headphones, and it just like you get to this state where you just go into like a trance, like a deep meditation. It almost like satisfies that part of the brain that's got all the rage, and it just like calms it somehow. Like after a while, it just, at least that's the effect it had on me. It was like almost like became ambient music at a certain point. Like it was like calming, relaxing, which is so bizarre. But I know what you mean about just kind of certain types of music helping to like drown out the din of the world
yeah,
and
all
kind
the
of help
clutter.
you. Yeah, the clutter. It can put you in a nice meditative state where you can focus.
Like this album is like actually Psycho, and I've been listening to it on repeat. It's Leviathan by Mastodon, and Braun of the band like handed it to me when I was at his house, which was like the coolest experience ever. So I've been constantly playing it more than I usually do. And you're right, because like the screaming and the yelling and like the really intense fast riffs and like the crazy fills, just like it pieces my heart together more than I think something like Bonnie Raitt could, or some kind of. Because I love
Yeah.
sad music too. I've been on a sad grind, like the Strokes and whatnot, and that's good. And I really like that. But I think I'm moving on. I'm going into some Lamb of God now. I'm getting
Okay.
crazier and crazier.
You've moved past the sadness and you're into the rage and
Yeah,
the anger,
the
the
I'm ready
wrath.
to start moshing. Me and my bud are going to go to a crazy show in the end of July, and
Yeah.
we're pretty short, and we haven't been to a crazy show, so I'm so excited to get messed up. like 2 days before school starts. It's gonna be so good.
Perfect.
Um, Speaking of, so in our earlier in our conversation, we spoke about Mr. Young, and people also asked, what are your top three Neil Young records of all time? It's a hard choice, but
Yeah, that is
because
that
in
almost
his
like
wide
changes
discography.
it almost changes week to week. Damn. And there's so many, and then he keeps putting more
Exactly.
out, and they're all great.
Yeah, fucking up was awesome.
Yeah. Gun to my head, I really love Weld, the live record Weld.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that was like peak Horse, 93 or 96 or something like that. Um, Probably Zuma is up there.
Classic.
Um, damn. Um, like Neil or Crazy Horse specifically.
I mean, I think since Crazy Horse is so much Neil and Neil is so much Crazy Horse, I think we can do both.
I really think Landing on Water is an overlooked record. It's
Ooh.
a record he did with Steve Jordan,
Yeah, yeah,
who's
yeah.
now drumming for the Rolling Stones. Um, and that was in the 80s, kind of in the Geffen era. Um, yeah, that record has some bangers on it that are pretty overlooked, I think. Under Pressure,
Mhm.
Hippie Dream. Um, but honestly, like I can't like go to my grave being like those are the best Neil Young records. Like it's like his music kind of appears at times in life that it always like there's moments where like you need to hear certain lyrics or you need to feel certain sounds,
Yeah.
and then Neil's always there with the exact right song from some record. Maybe it's a song you've never heard before and from some record that you didn't even know existed, and you're like, this song exists to make me feel okay right now, like to feel like
Whole,
someone
complete.
gets it. And yeah, um narrating my life somehow, in a deep subconscious way
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So I mean, yeah, those are all great. I could name 50 others off the top of my head that could also be in that list, but I
And that
won't
won't even scratch the
bore
surface of
everyone.
like the discography he has, you know? That's what I love
Yeah.
about it. Is like with Queens of the Stone Age, which is like another one of my top bands. I love constantly going back to different records, but it's so beautiful to have the ability to make banger after banger albums and then keep doing it, you know, and then having albums you've never put out before and live albums you've never put out before and randomly throwing them out there. Like it's like treats, you know, like your dogs, like treats for the dogs. It's perfect. Um,
Yeah. And I think Neil is one of those people that is constantly reminding me that you know there was a point in my songwriting where, and just music making and album releasing in general, where I realized I had to decide I can either be prolific or I can be a perfectionist, and you can't really be both.
yeah,
It's like My Bloody Valentine spent how many years on that record, and it's an amazing record. But you look at Neil's output, and he's got just endless gems, like you said. And like, I think the more you do it, the better you get at channeling that place.
it's the aura.
And yeah, and so he doesn't really second guess himself. um he just tries to get as close to the source as he can all the time, and he likes to just keep putting stuff out there and keep writing and keep the flow moving. And if like you can either do that or you can sit and needle fuck everything and try to make it so perfect that
Yeah,
the moment isn't even in it anymore. And I think Neil's a great example of that,
yeah.
of
It's
like,
the King Gizzard work ethic.
oh yeah, is
Yeah,
that how
they
those guys
do
work?
freaking albums. They just did an album last year and the year before, and they constantly are putting out stuff and constantly touring.
They
But
do put out a lot. Yeah,
oh
I've
yeah,
noticed that. Did
and
you? I did some artwork for one of their records.
oh actually,
Yeah, yeah. Wait, hold on. Let me show you.
you have like the original canvas just hanging out.
Well, they sent me the uh the actual record.
Sick.
I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, that's so cool, dude. What the hell?
I made this when I was your age, dude. I made this
I need to get
drawing
into that, man.
when I was like 14 and it sat around. Sorry, it's all reflective and shit. Hold
Yeah,
on.
but it looks sick. Is that a picture disc?
It's a picture disc.
Yeah.
It's called Teenage Gizzard.
But no way you made Teenage Gizzard.
Yeah, that's my
That's
art.
what I was thinking about. That's like the most, dude, that's sick.
And this picture sat around for years. And then like my friend who used to manage me, he put this vinyl out on his label Org Music, and he hit me up like, "Hey, you got any artwork for King Gizzard?" I was like, "Actually, try this one." And it's like you never know. I mean, it's a good example too of like just keep making stuff
Hmm.
because you never know where it will end up. You just do it because
Yeah, man. That's so
you know.
sick. I've been trying to get an interview, like an in-person interview with them because they're doing a show in Atlanta 2 days before my birthday. And I will say it's a pain in the ass to get in-person stuff. It's way harder to do in person than it is to do over Zoom. But I'm praying that by November I'll have the follower count and the mass and like the influence that their management will finally fold and be like, okay, wait, if we can do this. But like King Gizzard is just like a camp of amazing people. Even their management and their publicity, they're all just so goddamn kind and like wholesome, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
You
So
just
I'm
gotta
gonna.
keep banging their door down, man.
I know people get freaking pissed off because I keep checking, but I'm not letting it go. There's a couple of interviews, like Mike Shinoda of Lincoln Park. I'm not letting that go. I'm so close to that. I'm so close. Um, but speaking of Mr. Young and the spring tour, did you have any set list input?
Um, yeah. Uh, yeah. I mean, yes and no. Like, we don't really have a set, so there's no set list. I mean, we knew that at a certain point. Okay, here, let me tell you,
Yeah,
give you a little taste of what it's like. So we had the SDSU campus, whatever that theater is called, that we played the first 2 nights. We had that theater for 2 nights before the show started to rehearse and tone quest and all that. And so night one we go in there and Neil shows up and we played like 30 seconds of a couple songs that we didn't even end up playing the whole tour. And then Neil's like, "Okay, it's great." And then he leaves. And then like, fuck. Uh, all right. And so at least Billy and Ralph and I like jammed a little bit, but then we were like, let's go eat. And then the next night Neil didn't even show up. He understandably he had to deal with some stuff, family stuff. But then he was like, all right, I guess let's play some stuff. And then the next night was the show.
yeah.
It was the beginning of the tour, you know? And so the plan was like Neil was like, all right, so here's what I'm thinking. Let's go out and we'll start with Cortez and we'll play Cortez
Crazy opener.
as long as we want, and then we'll do some other stuff, and then at some point maybe I'll play some solo stuff, and then maybe you guys come back on. We'll do some more stuff. Okay, great plan, Neil. Sounds perfect. And I've played like hundreds of shows with Neil at this point, so I'm this is not throwing me for a loop. Like this is how it is all the time. I know what to expect, and would have been more surprised if we were going to get down in nitty gritty and rehearse and like most bands do.
Sounds like Neil.
And the set just kind of became whatever it was. You know, we know we're going to start with Cortez, and we were pretty sure we wanted to do Cinnamon Girl right after that because we're in the same guitar tuning.
Yeah.
And then after that, Neil just starts songs, or sometimes he'll look at me like, "What do you think?" You know, and oh, what if we did Down by the River? Yeah, okay. And then especially after, you know, like when we come off stage and we're thinking about whether we're going to do an encore or not, and we all kind of throw things out there. But you know, and Neil's got the final call. He'll you know,
It's got the
it's
final
really
say.
his call. But we all throw stuff out there, and there were a few songs that like Billy and I really wanted to do that we would practice at sound check um, before Neil showed up. Sometimes when Neil showed up, we would say, "What do you think about this?" And there were a few that we like. I think we ended up doing a couple that we thought about doing that we like. Me and Billy were like, "Oh, we should do this," and then we started playing at sound check. We did "When You Dance" one night. I think it was in Bridgeport. I think
Oh
it was the
yeah.
only night we did it. It was pretty raw because we didn't practice it, you know,
That's
like
perfect though. I mean,
me and
Raw's
Billy did
the
enough to
goal.
be like, but that song's not, it's not two chords. It's like it's like a labyrinth
Yeah.
chords, you know, it's crazy. Um we really wanted to do at one point Drive Back. We jammed that a little bit at sound check. But Neil wasn't, you know, it's like certain songs are just they're not in his story at that time, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. And he doesn't want to sing something if he's not feeling it. Um, Inca Queen, that was another one that me and Billy sort of worked up, and we thought it would be cool to do. That was kind of towards the end, though, like um, not long before uh, we ended up cutting the tour short. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah. But anyway, long story short, we all throw things out there all the time and see what sticks.
That's so cool though. I never would have expected that to the set list is kind of just like a mind fuck and just whatever happens, happens. But that's so crazy horse. Like we should all be expecting
Yeah.
that, you know? That I feel like after listening for, I mean, how many ever years I've been listening to the band, it's like maybe you should expect that. But and that reminds me, right? Like you guys came to Alpharetta, which is like 10 minutes from my house, but
Oh yeah.
I was already booked for me and my mom went to go see a festival on over the weekend, and then like the family was just out of it to like actually go to a concert on a school night. And but I had
Damn.
a friend who went and he said it was incredible. So I'm hoping that you guys like come back, and play a couple shows in Atlanta sometime, because that's like it's on my what's it on my bucket list to do my bucket list show. But
That'd be cool.
on
Hit
Crazy
me up
Horse.
if we do.
Oh yeah, no, I will. I'm gonna see if I can get some buddies in or something. It's like a Crazy Horse show is just so awesome, and like watching the videos, you guys are just doing your own thing, and you do like the Neil thing where you kind of lean in and lean out, and like it seems so cool. And speaking of the coolness, when you joined, was there like an initiation ritual or anything?
Um, I mean, not like an official thing. I like I said at that point, I had played with Neil for like 10 years,
Mm,
in various configurations, and um, you know, there was in the sense of like, you know, I didn't really know Billy and Ralph that well. I'd met them a couple times, but we hadn't, you know, been on tour together.
mm,
And I think the Hollywood, you know, the Roxy shows in Hollywood was a bit of an initiation, and those went really well. And there was a point, like maybe a week into the tour, I think it was right after Alabama, maybe, where Ralph, we were on the bus, and he looked at me, he said, "Micah, you're no longer the new guy. You're an official member of Crazy Horse, and you can do whatever the fuck you want." I was like, all right.
Ultimate compliment right there.
From Ralph, that means something. He doesn't he doesn't give out compliments. So at that point, it felt like, I mean, it already felt like we were a band kind of just the second we got on stage at the Roxy, but then it was like, all right, I'm not the new guy. I'm in the band. So that was cool.
It's sick. It's just I can't say enough cool things. Like, I mean, like being in Crazy Horse, it's not just like an ordinary band. If you were saying you're joining like freaking Nirvana or Foo Fighters or whatever, that's like a okay, that's a band. But like Crazy Horse is so storied and so fantastical. It's just so cool.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a mythological sort of
mythological is
thing.
not even the word to say it, man. It's like more than mythological. Here, let
Yeah.
me. Did you guys record any of the shows that you played on the tour? And if so, are we gonna see like a
Yeah.
official release?
Neil records everything.
Like when
So,
you guys talk behind his back, he has it all on tape to like use it against you.
right, yeah. I mean, every show, every show, probably every sound check even, we are recording. And on this tour, Daryl and CK and Gilbert, and like there was a whole crew filming us. And
Mhm.
he's a documentarian. He tries to capture all of these moments because he knows we're not going to do 50 takes of something, to get it right. It's like we're capturing life and in all of its ragged glory. And that's like, I wouldn't be surprised if that ended up being a movie, a concert movie, or an album, or picking the best versions of this or that from each night and making a live record. He loves to do that, which is great. I love it too. We did Earth was the live record we did
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
from the Europe tour, and then Noise and Flowers was another live record from our second Europe tour. Um, back with the real 2019, and then 2016 before that. And we didn't know whether or not it was going to be a album or a concert while it's happening, but if Neil listens back and he's like, "Oh, this is great," then he usually wants to put it out and share it.
That's so cool to hear. I mean, even that, like, what is his recording situation like? Does he have like a little one of those really small microphones, or is it like a intricate kind of design, or his phone? Or...
Um, well, I mean, I couldn't tell you exactly. I know there's the board mix, there's the
Hmm.
multi-track from the board,
Yeah.
and then I know there's some microphones capturing the crowd and just a live room. That's all you really need to make a live record. And then as far as the footage, we did Noise and Flowers. At least that one was like a combination of Daryl shooting on her digital camera, and like at the Hollywood Bowl shows, I lent her my Super 8. She shot
Hmm.
a lot of stuff on Super 8 film. And then Noise and Flowers, I was going to say a lot of that stuff was like audience footage scrubbed from YouTube.
Uh-huh.
They just shot on their phone. You like, if you look out in the crowd, there's a million lights, and it's everyone's iPhones or whatever shooting,
Hmm.
and
That's
they're
so
gonna
cool.
typically put it up on YouTube. Then you can just grab that because sometimes it looks really cool and kind of grainy, and you get an angle that you couldn't get if you were, trying to be fancy about it. And yeah, I couldn't tell you like the exact gear or
Mhm.
whatever for the live show recordings, but I know that there's the board has a multi-track
Yeah,
something or other going on. Back
that's
in the day, it
sick.
was tape machines, but
Yeah, I was thinking of him just like standing in like one of those Grateful Dead tapers with like the really stupid ass big like microphone and everything, but that seems a little bit too
yeah.
far-fetched. Um, for Particle Kid, are we gonna see maybe another release, like a new album or new project, solo Micah?
I've got a bunch of music that I've recorded um, that is not released yet. I don't have an official release date.
Mm.
There's been some hangups, uh, many different types of hangups, but yeah, I am working on a couple records. One of them I did mostly on my own, but I had some friends play on it too. And uh, yeah, I'm dealing with some stuff with the label I was working with, but I've also been working on a record with Daniel Lanois, the producer.
Yeah,
And are you familiar with Lanois?
I've heard of his work. Yeah,
Yeah, he and I have been working on a really cool album, and that's pretty close. It's I moved up north. I moved out of LA a few years ago, and that was right around the time that he hit me up wanting to make a record. And he lives in LA, and so it was long distance at first, and then kind of whenever when I was in LA, we'd get together. We did some stuff at his studio in Toronto, and it's been a lot of hit and run. So you know, it's taken a while, but it's kind of cool actually because we'll do a lot of work and then we'll kind of I'll go on tour or he'll go on tour or whatever, do our
Mhm.
separate little stories, and then we come back to it and we hear things that we didn't hear before,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's like fresh, and so we get re-inspired and we you know start working again and get some time away from it, and then we come back and
So cool.
so it's kind of evolved in a really organic way,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's nearing completion, and so
It's good to
yeah,
hear.
a lot of stuff coming out. I've also been working on this. It's an artist owned music streaming platform called The Flow.
What a sick ass name, The Flow. That's so cool.
Yeah, um, I'm on the board. This guy Mike Hanishik, he's created it, and it's essentially a vertically integrated music streaming social media platform. The artists own 51% of it.
Yeah,
So, the whole idea is that, like, on Spotify, you can see all of who's downloading this song where and who's streaming this where, and that's all great, but what they don't show you is all the money they're stealing from you. you know like they don't show you
trying to
anything
hide that,
about
you
the
know?
streaming revenue and how many people are siphoning the billions of dollars away from the
The
content you
artists.
created
Yeah.
before you get this fraction of a penny. With the flow, you make all the money, like, you know it's like it's a very transparent interaction between artists and fan.
Mhm.
You can have everything you want up there. um, the autonomy is intact, and so
Sounds so
there's
cool.
no mosquitoes coming in, grifters coming in, convincing anyone that you need their software to make this revenue transaction where they'll take 10% out of it before it gets to you. None of that crap. You make the music, you put it out there, fans go, oh, that's cool, I like that. And then you get the money from it, and all of these streaming services are like subscription based, right?
Yeah.
But all that money is going to these tech CEOs, and none of it's going to the artist creating the value of the platform.
Yeah.
So we're flipping that and disrupting that with the flow, and trying to create a new paradigm in which music has value again, and the algorithm within these platforms is incentivizing creativity and integrity, and not encouraging trolls and horrible comments and things like that. Like on Instagram and all the Facebook,
Oh,
it's
the
like
Instagram comments are
they make so
insane.
much money, and every time people are fighting each other, like that's embedded in the algorithm. They want people to do that because then they get, so
Entertainment.
the flow is the opposite. It's like, you get these badges, right?
Oh,
And you
sick.
can only use one a day, so they have value. And it's like, oh, that track was dope. Like that song really spoke to me. I'm going to give them my star badge today. Or these two people, they had a really respectful disagreement about that. These two fans or whatever. I'm going to give them my peace up badge. Or all that
Yeah.
artist said something really heartfelt. I'm going to give them my heart badge. And the more you collect these, the more your profile gets boosted on the platform. And so it's encouraging,
Yeah.
just being a decent person, and community, and supporting each other and supporting the artists who support the fans, and the flow.
Yeah.
So that's
Definitely.
that's the idea, because this current paradigm is like totally killing culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really depressing, and so we're trying to just basically create a functional system outside of this dysfunctional one, that makes the dysfunctional one obsolete. Because by design, the flow is doing things that Spotify and all these other companies can't do, because
Yeah.
their whole trip is to try and just make as much money as possible for the heads of the company and the
Yeah.
shareholders and shit. But like with the flow, any investor can't own more than 5% of it.
Mhm.
The artists always have the majority say, and so I'm very excited
So
about
sick.
that. I'll send you I made a little animated infomercial teaser for it. I'll send to you,
Oh, sure.
and you can
Sweet.
like sign up on the website. It's not completed yet, but you can get on the waiting list.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I think your friends would dig it, because
Oh, they definitely
you're
would.
a music lover, clearly a music lover. You want these artists that you love to be able to keep doing it and not have to pander and you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
do just play this stupid game. Um,
Yeah, I have to
so,
congratulate you on that, man. I have less than a minute, so I would love to keep talking,
oh,
but Zoom's gonna,
okay.
beat the shit out of me, and I don't want that to
Sorry,
happen.
I ramble a lot,
No,
so you
it's
have to
great, man.
stop
I
me.
love rambling. Ramble on, as they say. Thank you so much for speaking to me. It's been an absolute honor. I'm gonna be praying to the mountain gods that you come back to Atlanta or Georgia or Alfred or somewhere here, so I can like shake your hand in person and maybe talk to Neil. I will definitely tell my friends about the flow. The flow is incredible. Fuck Spotify. The flow.